Hola. In the framework of the 8th International Conference of Community Psychology, we are pleased to present from Chile. We are Camila Inostroza, Alejandra Villarroel, y Gisela Carrillo, members of the Centro de Estudios en Bienestar y Convivencia Social of the Universidad del Desarrollo. Today, we will present the research ecological and community dimensions of child well-being, a qualitative metasynthesis.
Relevance of the study. A growing interest in the study of well-being in children and adolescents has been developing. The academic and political importance that this study based on the fact of the evidence show that high level of well-being are the key psychology straight linked to a broad range of indicators and emotional health and social functioning, and its great relevance for the promotion, prevention, and early detection of needs and in children and adolescents. In this way, this study becomes especially relevant and valuable for the development of public policy promoting health and social development, especially in the frameworks of mandates in international organizations such as Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development and the World Health Organization, which propose well-being as a development goal of their respective missions. It's also become relevant the new sociology of childhood, which has been increasingly developed since the ratification of Convention of the Rights of the Child. These perspectives give academics context to relevance of the study of well-being, in much as it allows to recognize the rescue the voice of children and adolescents by means of study their opinions, attitudes, and perception of issues that affect them. Within this framework, a well-known momentum of research of well-being and subjective experience of life satisfaction in children and adolescents has been encouraged from qualitative research paradigm. Qualitative methods help respond to the weak incorporation of subjectivity in research of well-being and the use of indicators based primarily on adults' conception and what is important for the well-being of children and adolescents. Finally, there is a growing agreement in the literature regarding the need to broaden the perspective of well-being research, integrating the systematic study of meanings, understanding, notion, and perception that children and adolescents have about well-being. From this background, the research question of the study is, which are the ecological and community dimensions that, from children understanding, are considered significant for their well-being?
In relation to the method, we search for empirical articles with the use of qualitative methods on well-being in children and adolescents. The initial search for results yielded a total of 76 articles. There were 15 articles that met the inclusion criteria, and the analysis we used was the constant comparison methodology, interpretation of results, and conceptual reinterpretation proposed by Sandalowski and Barroso. Regarding the selected articles, were characterized by an age range of the participants between 6 and 24 years, 13 articles in English language, 2 articles in Spanish language, 14 were studies conducted in developed countries, 1 study was carried out in Latin American context, and only 3 studies were comparing by gender. We found these 5 higher order categories: positive notion of oneself, relationship of safety, affection, and support with significant others, experience of being respected and having agency, activities that allow a positive socio-emotional experience, and structural aspects. But in this presentation, we will only see the 3 most significant ones for an ecological and community analysis. One of the three higher order categories we want to discuss corresponds to relationships of safety, affection, and support with significant others. This category considers three attributes. Firstly, relationships that provide safety, characterized by providing stable personal attention, protection, and trust, allowing the emergency of autonomy. For example, in the research by Anderson in 2015, students relate the interaction in conditions of safety in the school context with the possibility of giving their opinion, as we observe in the following quote. Like right now, I feel very safe. That's why I'm putting my opinion in. Secondly, relationships that provide affection. Children and adolescents highlighting that the relationship on the closest of settings, such as family and friends, would be especially relevant in the provision of affection, as illustrated in Coverdale's study, where one of the adolescents points out, let the parents provide emotional loving, not just to give them stuff, showing the importance of affection, in this case, of parents. Lastly, relationships that provide support in everyday life focuses on the fact that support would be relevant to well-being when it facilitates learning, development, and coping with adverse situations. For example, support emerges from friends, which is illustrated by one of the participants in the study by Fattore of 2009, which highlights the relevance of feeling that others understand her and give her emotional support, as we observe in the following quote. I can tell my friends and know that they will be able to understand what I feel and everything. And when I have had a fight with my mom, I always tell my friend that's what happened, and she's always like, oh, all right then.
The second of the three higher order categories we want to discuss correspond to experience of being respect and having agency. This category considers two attributes. Firstly, being respect in one's uniqueness. The experience of respect in wider family, school, and social context are of great relevance in children and adolescents' experience of well-being, just as their absence is experienced as an important negative interference. For example, unequal treatment and lack of respect by teachers negatively interferes with well-being, like is reported in Anderson, as we observe in the following quote. It's pretty hard to come across a teacher that really respects and values your opinion. The second attribute is participation and agency. It's related to the fact that children and adolescents experience that opportunities for participation within the framework of relationships with others in family, school, and community contexts affect their experience of well-being. Regarding agency in the school context, one of the participants in the study by Fattore illustrates, well, I think that both sides should be cooperate together and should have like meetings together and make up the rules because it is more fair that way. Reflecting the search for a representative participation of children and adults as an element linked to justice in the school context and associated with well-being experience. Also, in Anderson research, secondary school students mention freedom of speech, having your rights, as relevant elements in their understanding of well-being in the school context. The third and last category of higher order that we want to discuss corresponds to structural aspects. Said in conceptual terms, this category refers to aspects of the ecosystem and microsystem which children identify as important for their well-being and considers two attributes. Firstly, physical environment, such as the design and qualities of the built and natural urban environment, where it is estimated that the lack of safe spaces limits the ability for the participate in activities. For example, abandoned public spaces are experienced as negative dimensions for well-being, as mentioned by a teenager from a school located in a neighborhood of low socioeconomic status from the study of roles. Why can we come as a community and work to fix these problems? Try to help people get to these homes because there is a population of homeless, and it's just like we can work together to fix these things. And then the playground, we can open this back up so that way children have a place to go to play. In relation to the second attribute, material condition, it is highlighted that the parents have good working conditions and receive an adequate family income in order to survive, that schools have good resources, having access to good medical care and mental, physical, and emotional health, having food, and being able to apply for jobs that provide material security for the future. For example, in Newton research, a participant mentions their concerns by referring to the precarious projections of the future without a good education, as we observe in the last quote. If you didn't have education, how are you going to get a job? And how are you going to get a home if you haven't got a job? The results show the possibility that from the study and analysis of the available qualitative studies, progress can be made in the elaboration of more robust integrative models of well-being through the systematization of the interrelationships between components and levels that emerge from the understanding of well-being of girls, boys, and adolescents. As shown in the image, it is possible to distinguish individual levels elements, interpersonal, and from the broader context in material, social, cultural, and community terms. Therefore, it is possible to locate the categories and attributes described, distinguishing their level from an ecological and community analysis.
As for the discussion, we would like to end with the invitation to validate the voice of children and adolescents as actors who can tell us what they need and reflect on what opportunities we are giving them from the micro to the macro. First, we distinguish that the actors involved in the experiences of well-being generally form part of the close environments of children and adolescents, including the family, especially father and mother, friends, adults and friends in the school context, and community people, as well as links with the institutional agents, such as the structural aspects they mentioned. Therefore, rich, organized, and complex understandings distant from partial perception or atomized and fragmented understandings of their daily life, endorse the contribution that these studies have to expand the range of subjective experience and significant and relevant life conditions in well-being, distinguishing, as can be seen in these findings, elements of individual or personal levels, relationship with others, and the material, social, and cultural context. Regarding the limitations, we found that only the studies by Bucinato and collaborators, Malo and collaborators, and Matthews and collaborators analyzed differences by gender in their results.
The references, and if someone is interested in contacting us, here we leave our mails. Thanks. Gracias.
Gracias.
Chao, muchas gracias.